The mop made a soft sound against the metal floor. Back and forth. Back and forth. Tejo moved it slowly, carefully, making sure every spot was clean. He had done this job for 3 years now. Every day was the same. Wake up, work, sleep, wake up again. Galactic Trade Station 7 was a busy place. Ships came and went at all hours. Aliens from 100 different worlds walked through its corridors. They bought things. They sold things. They made deals and broke promises. And through it all, Tejo cleaned. He was not a big man. By human standards, he was actually quite small. He stood at 5 feet and 6 inches. His body was thin. His arms looked weak. His face was plain and forgettable. When aliens looked at him, they saw nothing special. Just another human. Just another cleaner. The station employed many workers, but Tejo was the only human janitor. The others worked in shops or offices. They had better jobs, better pay, better respect. But Tejo never complained. He just cleaned. Move, dirt creature. Tejo stepped aside without looking up. A Vraxian warrior walked past him. The alien was tall, maybe 8 feet. His skin was gray and covered in hard scales. His eyes were yellow with black slits in the middle. 4 arms hung from his wide shoulders, each one ending in claws that could cut through metal. The Vraxian did not need to push Tejo. He did not need to insult him, but he did both anyway. His lower right arm shoved Tejo against the wall. The mop clattered to the floor. Pathetic, the Vraxian said. Humans are so weak. I do not understand why the galaxy lets you live. Tejo picked up his mop. He said nothing. He did not even look at the alien's face. The Vraxian laughed. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. Not even brave enough to look at me. Your species disgusts me. Then the warrior walked away. His heavy footsteps echoed through the corridor until they faded to nothing. Tejo went back to mopping Dot. This was normal. This happened every day. The Vraxians were a warrior race. They respected only strength. To them, Tejo was less than nothing. He was a target, a joke, something to push around when they were bored. There were 5 Vraxians on the station. They worked as security for a wealthy merchant. Every day, at least one of them would find Tejo. Every day, they would mock him, push him, spit near his feet. They called him names that did not translate well into any human language. They made gestures that meant terrible things in their culture. And every day, Tejo did nothing. The other workers on the station noticed this. Word spread quickly in such a small place. The human janitor was a coward. He never fought back. He never reported the abuse. He just took it, day after day, like a beaten animal. Some aliens felt sorry for him. The Pelori merchants would sometimes give him extra food. They were small, furry creatures with kind hearts. You should stand up for yourself, they would say. Even if you lose, you would earn respect. Tejo would thank them for the food. Then he would go back to work. Others saw him as pathetic. The Corvan traders would shake their large heads when they passed him. Humans, they would mutter. No spines at all. The Corvans were tall and proud. They had bones on the outside of their bodies and moved with confidence. Everywhere they went, Tejo did not mind what they thought. He had stopped caring about such things long ago. His room was small. It was located in the lower section of the station, where the air recyclers hummed loudly and the lights flickered sometimes. The bed was narrow. The walls were bare. There were no pictures, no decorations, no personal items. Just a bed, a small table, and a closet with his work uniforms. Every night, Tejo would return to this room. He would eat a simple meal from a packet. He would sit on his bed and stare at the wall. Sometimes, he would close his eyes and breathe very slowly. In and out. In and out. Like he was trying to calm something inside him. Something that wanted to wake up. Then he would sleep. And the next day would begin again. The station manager was a Delvian named Crix. He had blue skin and 6 eyes arranged in a circle around his flat face. He was not cruel, but he was not kind either. He cared only about efficiency. Tao, he called one morning. Come to my office. Tejo put down his cleaning supplies and walked to the manager's office. It was a small room filled with screens and datapads. Crick sat behind a desk that was too big for him. The Vraxians have complained about you, Crick said. His voice was flat, without emotion. Tejo stood still. He did not speak. They say you are always in their way. They say you stare at them with hostile eyes. They want you removed from Section C. Tejo knew this was a lie. He never stared at anyone. He always moved out of the way. The Vraxians just wanted to make his life harder. They enjoyed it. I understand, Tejo said quietly. I will stay away from Section C. Crick studied him with all 6 eyes. You do not wish to defend yourself? To explain your side? No, why not? Tejo was silent for a moment. Then he said, It does not matter. Crix made a sound that might have been a sigh. Very well. Stay out of Section C. You are dismissed. Tejo bowed slightly and left the office. He returned to his work without complaint. Section C was where the best shops were located. It had wide corridors and beautiful lights. Now Tejo would have to clean only the darker, dirtier parts of the station. The places nobody wanted to go. The places that smelled bad and looked worse. He did not mind. The days continued to pass. The Vraxians grew bolder. They followed him to other sections. They knocked things out of his hands. They tripped him when he walked. Once, the largest one grabbed Tejo by the throat and lifted him off the ground. I could kill you right now, the Vraxian growled. His breath smelled like rotting meat. Nobody would care. You have no family here. No friends. You are nothing. Tejo hung in the alien's grip. His feet dangled above the floor. His face turned red from lack of air. But his eyes remained calm, empty, like he was looking at something far away. The Vraxian dropped him. Boring, he said. You do not even fear death. What is wrong with you, human? Tejo rubbed his throat. He stood up slowly. Then he picked up his mop and continued cleaning. The Vraxian watched him for a long moment. Something flickered in those yellow eyes. Something that might have been confusion. Or maybe it was the first small seed of doubt. Then the warrior snorted and walked away. That night, Tejo looked at his throat in the small mirror above his sink. There were bruises forming. Purple and black marks in the shape of clawed fingers. He touched them gently. The pain was distant, like it belonged to someone else. He had felt worse pain before. Much worse. In places far from this station. In times he tried hard not to remember. His hands were steady as he treated the bruises with a medical patch. They were always steady. Even when everything else was falling apart, his hands never shook. It was a useful skill. He had learned it the hard way. The weeks went on. New ships arrived at the station. New aliens came and went. Trade continued as it always did. Money changed hands. Goods moved from one end of the galaxy to the other. And Tejo cleaned. He cleaned the floors and the walls. He cleaned the windows that looked out into space. He cleaned the bathrooms that different species used in very different ways. He cleaned blood when fights broke out. He cleaned vomit when travelers got sick. He cleaned everything, and he never complained. The Pelori merchants continued to be kind to him. One of them, a small female named Tori, would bring him warm drinks during his breaks. You seem sad, she said one day. Are you sad, Taeho? He thought about the question. I do not know, he said honestly. I do not feel much of anything anymore. Tori's big eyes filled with worry. That is worse than sadness, she said. To feel nothing at all. Taeho did not know how to respond. So he just drank his warm drink and thanked her for her kindness. The Vraxians noticed Tori talking to him. This made them angry. They did not like anyone being nice to their favorite target. The next day, they followed Tori to her shop. They made threats. They broke some of her products. They told her to stay away from the human. Tori was scared. She stopped bringing Taeho drinks. She stopped even looking at him when he passed by. Taeho understood. He did not blame her. Fear was a powerful thing. It made people do things they did not want to do. It made them turn away from those who needed help. He had seen fear do much worse things than that. 1 month after Tori stopped talking to him, something changed on the station. It started with a rumor. Then the rumor became news. Then the news became a panic. Did you hear? Aliens whispered to each other. They are coming here. The hunters. The Deathwalkers. The Drexar. Taeho heard the name and kept mopping. But deep inside him, in a place he had locked away years ago, something stirred. The Drexar were coming, and nothing would ever be the same. The station changed overnight. Not physically, but in the way people moved through it. Everyone walked faster. Everyone spoke quieter. Eyes darted left and right, checking shadows in doorways. Fear hung in the recycled air like a bad smell. Taeho noticed all of this as he worked. He was pushing his cleaning cart through level 3 when he passed a group of Corvan traders. They were huddled together, speaking in low voices. When do they arrive? One asked. Tomorrow, another answered. Maybe sooner? Their ship was spotted near the jump point. We should leave. We should leave now. And go where? They do not attack stations. They have no reason to hurt us. We just need to stay out of their way. Taeho kept walking. The Corvans did not even notice him. Nobody ever noticed him. In the food hall. The conversations were the same. At the cargo bay, the dock workers shared the same worried looks. Even the station security officers seemed nervous. They checked their weapons more often. They stood in groups instead of alone. The Drexar were coming. Taeho had heard stories about them. Everyone in the galaxy had heard stories. The Drexar were hunters. Not just any hunters. They were the apex predators of the known universe. They killed for sport, for honor, for reasons that made sense only to them. They stood over 10 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in black and red scales that could stop most weapons. They had 4 eyes that could see in complete darkness. They had claws that could tear through ship hulls. They had teeth that never stopped growing, so they needed to bite hard things, often to keep them short. Most species avoided the Drexar at all costs. Some planets paid huge amounts of money just to keep them away. Others tried to fight them and failed. The Drexar could not be bought, could not be threatened, could not be reasoned with. They lived to hunt, and they were very, very good at it. You seem calm, a voice said. Taeho turned. It was Tori, the Pelori merchant. She had not spoken to him in weeks. She still looked afraid, but today her fear was not about the Vraxians. Why would I not be calm? Taeho asked. The Drexar are coming. Everyone is scared. I clean floors. I do not think the Drexar care about clean floors. Tori made a sound that was almost a laugh. You are strange, Taeho. Very strange. She paused. I am sorry I stopped talking to you. The Vraxians, they threatened my business. My family. I had no choice. I understand. Do you? You do not seem angry. I am not angry. You did what you needed to do to survive. There was no shame in that. Tori looked at him for a long moment. Her big eyes were wet. "You are too kind for this place," she said. "Too kind for this life." Then she hurried away, back to her shop, back to her fears. Tejo went back to work. The next day, the Drexar ship arrived. It came out of jump space like a beast emerging from darkness. The ship was black, shaped like a blade, covered in spikes and sharp edges. It was not beautiful. It was not elegant. It was built for one purpose only: to carry hunters to their prey. Every screen on the station showed the ship approaching. Every speaker carried the voice of the traffic controller, trying to sound calm but failing badly. "Drexar vessel, you are cleared for docking bay 7. Please follow standard protocols. Welcome to Galactic Trade Station 7. There was no response from the ship. The Drexar did not waste words. Tejo was cleaning near docking bay 7 when the ship landed. He had not planned to be there. His normal schedule had been changed because another janitor had called in sick. Fear made people sick in strange ways. The docking bay was large and mostly empty. The normal workers had found excuses to be elsewhere. Only a few security officers remained, standing as far from the bay doors as possible. While still being able to see them, the ship settled onto the landing pad with a heavy thud. Steam hissed from vents along its sides. The metal groaned as it cooled from the heat of space travel. Then the main door opened. Tejo continued mopping. His strokes were even and steady. Back and forth. Back and forth. The first Drexar stepped out of the ship. It was massive. Bigger than the stories said. Its head nearly touched the ceiling of the docking bay. Its scales caught the light and seemed to absorb it, making the creature look like a moving shadow. 4 red eyes scanned the area with cold intelligence. Behind it came 4 more Drexar. Each one was slightly different in size and coloring, but they all shared the same deadly presence. They moved like liquid, smooth and silent despite their huge bodies. The security officers backed away. One of them made a small sound of fear. The lead Drexar ignored them completely. It raised its head and sniffed the air. Then it made a sound, a low growl that seemed to come from deep within its chest. The other Drexar responded with similar sounds. They were communicating in a way that no translator could capture. Tejo kept mopping. The Drexar began walking toward the exit of the docking bay. Their footsteps made no sound. For creatures so large, they moved like ghosts. The security officers pressed themselves against the walls to let them pass. The lead Drexar stopped suddenly. It turned its head. Those 4 red eyes locked onto something. Someone. Te-ho. He continued mopping. He did not look up. He did not stop. He just kept working, like he always did. The Drexar watched him for 3 long seconds. Then it made another sound. Different from before. Sharper. The other hunters stopped and turned to look at the human too. The air in the docking bay became very still. Tejo finished mopping the section he was working on. Then he moved his cart to the next area. His back was to the Drexar. He could feel their eyes on him. 4 hunters, 20 eyes total, all focused on one small human janitor. He started mopping again. The lead Drexar made a gesture with one of its clawed hands. The pack moved forward again, toward the exit. But they moved slower now, more carefully, and they gave Tejo a wide space as they passed. Then they were gone. The security officers let out the breaths they had been holding. One of them actually sat down on the floor, his legs too weak to support him. "That was strange," one said. "Did you see how they looked at the human?" "They look at everyone," another said. "They are hunters. They observe everything." No, this was different. They were being careful. "Did you see how they walked around him?" "You are imagining things. Come on, we need to report this to the manager." They left the docking bay, talking nervously among themselves. None of them spoke to Tejo. None of them asked if he was okay. He did not expect them to. The next few days were strange. The Drexar walked the station like they owned it. They went where they wanted. They looked at what they wanted. Nobody stopped them. Nobody questioned them. The station's population learned to avoid them. When the Drexar walked down a corridor, everyone else found another way to go. When the Drexar entered a shop, the customers left quickly. When the Drexar sat in the food hall, the tables around them stayed empty. Tejo's work schedule did not change. He cleaned the same areas at the same times. Sometimes, this meant he was in the same place as the Drexar. When this happened, something strange occurred. The hunters would stop what they were doing. They would watch him. They would wait. Then they would move away. Other aliens noticed this. The Vraxians noticed it most of all. What is this? The largest Vraxian demanded one day. He had found Tejo cleaning near the medical center. The Drexar were nowhere in sight, which made the Vraxian brave again. Why did the hunters act strange around you? Tejo did not answer. He kept cleaning. I asked you a question, dirt creature. The Vraxian grabbed Tejo's arm and spun him around. What have you done? What trick are you playing? I have done nothing, Tejo said calmly. I do not control what others do. Lies. The Vraxian threw Tejo against the wall. You are weak. You are nothing. The Drexar should want to kill you, not avoid you. Tejo stood up slowly. His arm hurt where the Vraxian had grabbed him. Tomorrow there would be another bruise. Maybe they do not find me interesting, he said. The Vraxian laughed. Not interesting? The Drexar hunt everything. They find everything interesting. Unless they fear it. He stepped closer, his yellow eyes narrowing. But they cannot fear you. Look at you. You are pathetic. Tao said nothing. The Vraxian studied him for a long moment. Then he spat on the floor near Tejo's feet. I will find out your secret, human. And when I do, I will make you regret whatever game you are playing. He walked away, his forearms swinging with angry energy. Tejo cleaned up the spit. Then he continued with his work. That night, he sat in his small room and stared at the wall. His arm throbbed with pain. His throat still had faint marks from the Vraxian's attack weeks ago, but these pains were small, far away, like echoes of something that had happened to someone else. He closed his eyes and breathed. In and out. In and out. The thing inside him stirred again. It had been stirring more often lately. Ever since the Drexar arrived, it recognized them, and they recognized it. Tejo opened his eyes. His hands were steady, like always. His face showed no emotion, like always. But deep inside, in the place he tried to keep locked, something was waking up. He had worked hard to forget what he was. He had come to this station to disappear, to be nobody, to clean floors until the memories faded and the past became just a bad dream. But the past never truly disappears. It waits, it watches, and eventually it comes back. The Drexar knew this. Now, Tejo remembered it too. He lay down on his narrow bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would be another day of cleaning. The station's main gathering hall was full. This did not happen often. The hall was usually used for official meetings and trade negotiations. Today, it held nearly every being on the station. They had all come to hear the truth. The 5 Drexars stood at the front of the hall. Their massive bodies cast long shadows across the crowd. The lead hunter stood slightly ahead of the others, its 4 red eyes scanning the assembled aliens with cold interest. Station Manager Crix stood on a raised platform, his 6 eyes blinking nervously. He had called this meeting at the demand of the station's population. The rumors had grown too loud to ignore. Questions had turned into demands. The aliens wanted answers. They wanted to know about the human. Te-Ho was not in the hall. He was in his small room, lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling. He had been told about the meeting. He'd been invited to attend. He had refused. He already knew what the Drexar would say. In the gathering hall, Crix raised his thin arms for silence. The crowd slowly quieted. "Thank you all for coming," the manager said. His voice was shaky. "We are here because of the incident that occurred 3 days ago. As you all know, there was an encounter between one of our station workers and our Drexar guests. The footage has been widely viewed. Many questions have been raised. A Vraxian warrior pushed forward through the crowd. It was the largest one, the leader of the security team. His yellow eyes burned with frustration. "Enough talk," he growled. "We want to know why the hunters showed fear to a worthless human. We want to know the truth." The Drexar leader turned its head slowly. Its 4 eyes locked onto the Vraxian. The warrior suddenly seemed much smaller. "You demand truth," the Drexar said. Its voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. "Very well. You will have it." The hall fell completely silent. Even the air seemed to stop moving. The Drexar leader stepped forward. Each footstep made the floor vibrate slightly. "The human you speak of carries the old scent," it said. "The death scent. The scent of those who have killed our kind." A murmur ran through the crowd. The aliens looked at each other with wide eyes. The Vraxian leader laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That is impossible. That human is weak. He cannot even defend himself against us. We have beaten him many times. He never fights back." "Because he chooses not to," the Drexar replied. "Not because he cannot." The murmur grew louder. Questions were shouted from the crowd. "What do you mean, the old scent? How could a human kill a Drexar? Is this some kind of trick?" The Drexar leader raised one massive clawed hand. The crowd fell silent again. "My species has long memory," it continued. "Not memory of words or images. Memory of scent. Memory of feeling. Our ancestors passed their knowledge to us through blood. We remember what they experienced. We remember who they fought. We remember who killed them." It paused, letting its words sink in. "During the Frontier War, many of our kind died. Not from battles we expected to lose. We died fighting humans. Small humans. Weak humans. Humans who should have been easy prey." The Vraxian leader stepped forward again, his scales trembling with anger. "Humans are weak. They have no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. They are prey, not predators." The Drexar turned to face him directly. "You believe this because you are young, because your species has no long memory. But we remember. We remember the humans who came to our worlds during the war. The ones who hunted us in our own forests. The ones who tracked us through darkness and killed us in our sleep." It leaned closer to the Vraxian. The warrior stumbled backward, nearly falling. They were not soldiers in the normal way. They were something else. Specialists, trained to kill predators. Trained to become predators themselves. We called them shadow walkers in our language. Those who move without sound. Those who kill without warning. The hall was completely silent now. Every alien stared at the Drexar with a mix of fear and fascination. The human on this station carries their scent. The scent of shadow walkers. The scent of Drexar blood. My ancestors remember him. They remember what he did during the war. The Vraxian leader found his voice again, though it was weaker than before. "That is still impossible. The human is small. He looks like nothing." "Yes," the Drexar agreed. "He looks like nothing. This is how they survived. This is how they killed. They hid in plain sight. They made themselves invisible. They waited until the perfect moment, and then they struck." It straightened to its full height, nearly touching the ceiling. "The human your warriors have been tormenting is not a victim. He is a predator wearing the skin of prey. He has killed more of my kind than any of you could imagine. And he did it alone, in the dark, with weapons you would not recognize. The crowd erupted in noise. Questions, denials, arguments, all mixing together in a chaos of sound. But Crix finally managed to restore some order. "If what you say is true," the manager said, his voice cracking, "why has he not fought back? Why has he let the Vraxians hurt him all this time?" The Drexar was silent for a moment. Then it made a sound that might have been a laugh, though it held no joy. "Because he's tired. We know this feeling. All hunters know it. The tiredness that comes after too much killing. The way of all the deaths. Some hunters break under it. Some go mad. Others choose to stop. They put down their weapons. They try to become something else." It looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of every alien who dared to look back. The human chose to stop. He came here to disappear, to clean floors instead of kill enemies, to be invisible in a different way. He wants peace. He wants to forget what he was. The hall fell silent again. The weight of the words hung heavy in the air. The Vraxian leader's voice was barely a whisper when he spoke again. "Why are you telling us this? Why reveal his secret?" The Drexar's 4 eyes gleamed. "Because my species respects true predators. We do not expose them out of cruelty. We expose him out of respect. He has earned the right to walk openly. He should not have to hide what he is." It turned and walked back toward its pack. And it added without looking back, "Because you should know what happens to those who continue to torment him. Shadow walkers do not stay quiet forever. Their peace is a choice they make each day. The day they stop choosing peace." It left the sentence unfinished, but everyone understood. The meeting ended soon after. The crowd dispersed in silence. Aliens walked back to their shops and ships and quarters, their minds full of what they had heard. The human janitor was a killer, a legendary killer, a hunter of hunters, and they had walked past him every day without knowing. The Vraxian warriors gathered in their quarters. They spoke in low voices, their earlier arrogance completely gone. "We should leave," one said. "We should leave tonight." "And go where?" "He knows our scent now. If he decides to hunt us, distance will not matter. Then what do we do?" The leader was silent for a long time. Then he said, "We do nothing. We leave him alone. We pretend we never saw him. And we pray to our ancestors that he continues to choose peace." Nobody argued Dot in his small room. Taiho lay still on his bed. He had heard everything through the station's communication system. Crix had broadcast the meeting for those who could not attend. Now everyone knew. His secret was gone. His invisible life was over. He could never go back to being nobody. He closed his eyes and felt the familiar emptiness spread through him. He had worked so hard to forget. He had cleaned so many floors, trying to wash away the blood that would never truly disappear from his hands. And now the Drexar had dragged it all back into the light. He was not angry at them. He understood why they had done it. Respect, they said. Honor. These things mattered to predators. They did not understand that he wanted neither. He just wanted peace. But peace, like the past, was harder to keep than he had hoped. A knock came at his door. Te-Ho did not move. The knock came again. Taiho? It was Tori's voice, soft and worried. Are you there? I heard what they said. I wanted to see if you were okay. He considered not answering. He could pretend to be asleep. He could stay hidden in this small room forever. But that was not true, was it? There was no hiding anymore. He got up and opened the door. Tori stood in the corridor. Her big eyes were wet with unshed tears. She looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. I am sorry, she said. I am so sorry. For what? For everything. for not understanding, for being afraid of the wrong things. For all of it. Taeho looked at her. This small, kind creature who had been nice to him when no one else was, who had brought him warm drinks and gentle words. "You have nothing to be sorry for," he said. "But you have been hurting all this time, and nobody knew. Nobody helped. I did not want help. I wanted to be alone. Why?" He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Because people who get close to me tend to die." Tori flinched, but she did not run away. "That was before," she said quietly. "The war is over. You do not have to be that person anymore. I am always that person, even when I am mopping floors, even when I am sleeping. The war ended, but I never did." He stepped back to close the door. Tori put her small hand on the frame. "Wait, please. I know you want to be alone. I know you are tired. But you do not have to carry this by yourself. Not anymore." Taeho looked at her hand. So small, so fragile. He could break it without even trying. He could break her without even trying, but he would never do that. That was the whole point. That was why he had stopped. Another day of being invisible. Another day of pretending to be nothing. But something had changed. The DTHE corridor on level 5 was long and narrow. The lights flickered every few seconds because the power system in this section was old and nobody wanted to spend money fixing it. Most aliens avoided this area. It smelled bad and looked worse. Taeho cleaned here every day. He moved his mop across the metal floor, pushing dirty water into the drain. His movements were automatic. He had done this so many times that his body worked without his mind needing to pay attention. This was both good and bad. Good because it made the work easy. Bad because it gave him too much time to think. The footsteps came from behind him. Heavy, slow, measured. Not the clumsy stomp of a Vraxian or the quick patter of a Pelori. These footsteps were different. They were the footsteps of something that did not need to rush. Something that knew it was the most dangerous thing in any room. It entered. Taeho stopped mopping. He turned around slowly. The lead Drexar stood at the end of the corridor. It had to bend its head to fit under the ceiling. Its 4 red eyes glowed in the flickering light. Its scales seemed to drink in the darkness around it. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Taeho felt his heart beat faster. Not from fear, from something older, something buried deep. A recognition that went beyond thought. The Drexar took a step forward. Taeho stood still. Another step. The hunter's claws clicked softly against the metal floor. Its breathing was slow and deep, like distant thunder. Then it stopped. The Drexar lowered its head. Its 4 eyes studied Taeho with an intensity that could have melted steel. It sniffed the air, pulling in long breaths through the slits in its face that served as a nose. Taeho met its gaze. He did not look away. He did not blink. His hands stayed loose at his sides, not raised in defense, not clenched in fear. The Drexar made a sound. Low, rumbling. It was not a growl exactly. It was something else. Something that might have been a word in a language humans could not speak. Taeho did not respond. He just watched, waited. The hunter took another sniff. Then its eyes widened slightly. Its body changed position, subtle shifts that most observers would miss. But Taeho saw them clearly. The way the weight moved to the back legs, the way the arms pulled closer to the body, the way the head tilted down, exposing the softer scales at the back of the neck. The Drexar was showing submission, not complete submission. Not the way prey showed submission. This was different. This was the acknowledgement one predator gives to another. A sign that said, "I see what you are. I respect it. I will not challenge it." Taeho felt the thing inside him stir again. It recognized this gesture. It had received similar gestures before, long ago, in places far from this station. The Drexar took a step backward. Then another dot. It kept its eyes on Tahoe as it retreated. Slow, careful, never turning its back, never showing weakness beyond what it had already shown. At the end of the corridor, it stopped. It made another sound, deeper this time. A question, maybe, or a statement. Tahoe did not answer. The Drexar turned and walked away. Its footsteps faded into silence. Tahoe stood alone in the flickering corridor. His heart was still beating fast. His breathing was slightly quicker than normal. These were the only signs that anything unusual had happened. He picked up his mop and went back to work. But his hands were not as steady as before. The encounter did not stay secret for long. The station was small. People talked. And the security cameras recorded everything. By the next morning, everyone knew. Did you see the footage? Aliens whispered in the food hall. The Drexar backed away from the human janitor. The one the Vraxians liked to bully. That is impossible. The Drexar do not back away from anything. I saw it with my own eyes. The recording is clear. The hunter showed him respect. Maybe even fear. Fear? Of that small, weak creature. You are joking. Watch the footage yourself. Look at how the Drexar moved. Look at its body language. That was not normal behavior. The rumors spread like fire. By midday, everyone on the station was talking about it. The human janitor, the Drexar, the impossible encounter in the level 5 corridor. Tahoe ignored all of it. He continued his work. He cleaned the floors. He emptied the trash. He did everything he always did. But now people looked at him differently. The Corvin traders, who had always ignored him, now watched him pass with curious eyes. The Pelori merchants gathered in small groups and pointed at him when they thought he was not looking. Even the station security officers treated him differently. They stepped aside when he approached. They nodded at him with something that might have been respect. The Vraxians were the most affected. The largest one, the one who had hurt Tahoe many times, found him in the cargo bay. His yellow eyes were wild with confusion and anger. "What did you do to the hunter?" he demanded. "How did you make it fear you?" Tahoe continued stacking empty crates. "I did nothing. Lies." The Vraxian slammed his fist against a crate, denting the metal. "I have seen the footage. We all have. The Drexar respected you. It backed away. That does not happen. That never happens. I can't explain what others do." The Vraxian grabbed Tahoe and lifted him off the ground. "You will tell me your secret, human. You will tell me now, or I will break every bone in your pathetic body." Tahoe hung in the alien's grip. His face showed no fear. His eyes showed no pain. He looked at the Vraxian with the same empty expression he always wore. "I have no secret," he said quietly. "I'm just a janitor." The Vraxian screamed in frustration. He threw Tahoe across the cargo bay. The human hit a stack of crates and fell to the ground. Pain shot through his shoulder and back. "You are lying," the Vraxian roared. "You are hiding something, and I will find out what it is." He stormed out of the cargo bay, his footsteps shaking the floor. Tahoe lay on the ground for a moment. His body hurt. His shoulder might be damaged, but he had felt worse pain before. Much worse. He got up slowly. He checked his limbs. Nothing was broken. He would have bruises, but he would survive. He always survived. That night, Turi came to his room. She looked nervous, glancing up and down the corridor before stepping inside. "You should not be here," Tahoe said. "The Vraxians will see." "The Vraxians are scared," Turi replied. Her big eyes were wide with wonder. "Everyone is scared. Of you. That is foolish. I am nobody." Turi shook her small head. "You are not nobody. Not anymore. The whole station is talking about what happened. The Drexar leader backed away from you. Do you understand what that means? Taeho sat on his narrow bed. His shoulder ached. I understand what people think it means. And what do you think it means? He was silent for a long moment. Then he said, It means the past is harder to escape than I hoped. Tori moved closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. What past? Who are you, Taeho? Really? He looked at her. For a moment, something flickered in his empty eyes. Something old. Something tired. Something that had seen too much and remembered everything. I am a janitor, he said. That is all I want to be. Tori did not believe him. He could see it in her face. But she did not push further. She just looked at him with those big, sad eyes. Whatever you are running from, she said softly, I think it has found you. She left without another word. Taeho sat alone in his small room. The pain in his shoulder was getting worse. He should go to the medical center. He should get it checked. But he did not move. Instead, he closed his eyes and let the memories come. He had fought against them for so long. He had buried them under years of quiet work and empty days. But now they were rising to the surface, pulling him back to a time he had tried to forget. The Frontier War, the battles that had shaken the galaxy, the blood that had stained 1,000 worlds, and the things he had done to survive. The Drexar remembered. Their species had a genetic memory that passed knowledge from one generation to the next. They remembered the humans who had fought them, the humans who had killed them, the humans who had proven themselves predators in a galaxy full of prey. They remembered the scent of death, the old death, the death that came with calm hands and empty eyes. Taeho opened his eyes. His hands were steady again. They were always steady when it mattered. Tomorrow he would clean the floors. He would empty the trash. He would be invisible again, or try to be. But something had changed. The Drexar had seen the truth. They had recognized what he was. And now, slowly, everyone else was starting to wonder. The janitor was more than he seemed. And the truth was coming, whether he wanted it to or not. Why he had chosen to clean floors instead of kill enemies. Because he did not want to be a monster anymore. Thank you. 3 days passed after the gathering. 3 days of silence and strange looks and whispered conversations that stopped whenever. Taeho walked by Dot. He went back to work because he did not know what else to do. The floor still needed cleaning. The trash still needed emptying. The station still turned in its endless orbit around a distant star. These things did not change just because everyone now knew what he was. But everything else changed. The aliens who used to ignore him now stepped aside when he approached. They bowed their heads slightly. They made gestures of respect that they had never made before. The Pelori merchants, who had always been kind, were now almost worshipful. They brought him gifts. They offered him free food. They called him Protector and Honored One. Taeho did not want any of it. The Corvin traders, who had called him spineless, now spoke to him with careful politeness. They asked about his health. They asked if there was anything he needed. They were afraid, but they hid it behind smiles. Taeho did not want their fear. The station security officers saluted him when they passed. They offered to escort him through the station. They asked if he wanted a better room, better food, better everything. Taeho refused it all. He just wanted to clean floors. But the universe rarely gives us what we want. On the 4th day after the gathering, the Vraxian leader came to find him. Taeho was in the lower storage area, organizing cleaning supplies. He heard the heavy footsteps approaching. He did not turn around. Human, the Vraxian said. His voice was different now, smaller. Humble. Taeho continued organizing supplies. Yes, I came to apologize. Now Taeho turned. The Vraxian stood at the entrance to the storage room. His forearms hung loosely at his sides. His yellow eyes could not quite meet Taeho's gaze. Apologize, Taeho repeated. Yes, for what my warriors and I did to you. For the beatings, the insults, the cruelty. The Vraxian's voice cracked slightly. I did not know. None of us knew. If we had known, what? You would have treated me differently? The Vraxian was silent. Taeho set down the supplies he was holding. He walked toward the Vraxian slowly. The massive warrior actually flinched. You would have treated me differently because you were afraid, Taeho said. Not because it was right. You only stopped hurting me because you learned I was dangerous. Not because hurting others is wrong. The Vraxian's head dropped lower. That is not an apology. That is survival. There's a difference. I know, the Vraxian said quietly. But it is all I have to offer. I cannot change what I did. I can only promise it will never happen again. Taeho studied him for a long moment. This creature who had lifted him by the throat, who had thrown him against walls, who had made his life painful for 3 years. He should hate him. He should want revenge. The old Taeho, the Shadow Walker, would have killed him a dozen different ways by now. But he was not the old Taeho anymore. He had chosen a different path. A harder path. I accept your promise, he said finally. Not your apology. Apologies are meaningless without change. But I accept your promise. The Vraxian looked up, surprise in his yellow eyes. You forgive me? Forgiveness is not mine to give. The pain you caused is not a thing that can be undone with words. But I choose not to hold on to it. I choose to move forward. He picked up his cleaning supplies and walked past the Vraxian. That is the best I can offer you. He left the storage room. Behind him, the Vraxian stood alone, trying to understand what had just happened. Later that day, the Drexar came to see him. All 5 of them appeared in the corridor where Taeho was working. They moved silently, as always. But this time, they did not try to pass by without notice. They stopped directly in front of him. The lead hunter lowered its massive head until its 4 red eyes were level with Taeho's face. Shadow Walker, it said. The words carried weight, meaning, a title that had not been used in years. Taeho set down his mop. I am not that anymore. You are always that. It is in your blood, your bones, your scent. The Drexar paused. We did not mean to expose you. We only meant to stop the disrespect. I know. You are not angry? Taeho thought about it. Was he angry? The emotion seemed distant, like so many others. He had spent years teaching himself not to feel things too strongly. Strong feelings led to strong actions. Strong actions led to death. No, he said. I am not angry. I am tired. I have been tired for a long time. The Drexar made a sound low in its chest. Understanding, maybe. Recognition. We know this tiredness. All hunters know it. The weight of all we have done. Some of our elders have felt it. They stopped hunting. They became teachers instead. I am not a teacher. I am a janitor. You can be both. You can be many things. The hunter straightened. We leave tomorrow. Our business here is done. But before we go, we wanted you to know something. Taeho waited. Your kind and our kind were enemies once. We fought. We died. Many died. But that war is over. The Drexar do not hold grudges. We respect strength wherever we find it. And we respect choices. The lead hunter made a gesture that the other 4 copied. It was a movement Taeho recognized from the war. A salute given to worthy enemies. A mark of honor between predators. You chose to stop killing. You chose to clean floors instead of taking lives. Some would call this weakness. We call it the hardest kind of strength. The strength to become something new. Taeho felt something shift inside him. The thing that had been locked away for so long stirred again. But this time, it did not frighten him. "Thank you," he said. The Drexar turned and walked away. Their footsteps faded into silence. Taiho stood alone in the corridor. He looked at his hands. They were clean. They had been clean for years. But he had never felt clean. Not until now. Maybe that was what forgiveness really meant. Not pretending the past did not happen, but accepting it, learning from it, and choosing to be better. That night, Turi came to his door again. "I heard about the Drexar," she said. "What they said to you. Word travels fast on this station." "It does. It does." She smiled, her small face lighting up. "How do you feel?" Taiho thought about it. He really thought about it, for the first time in a long time. "I feel lighter," he said. "Like something heavy has been lifted." "That is good. That is very good." She stood on her tiptoes and touched his arm gently. "Will you stay? On the station? Where else would I go?" "I do not know. But you could go anywhere now. People would welcome a shadow walker. You could be important again. Powerful." Taiho shook his head slowly. "I do not want to be important. I do not want power. I spent too many years with both. They brought nothing but pain." He looked down the corridor, at the floors he had cleaned, at the walls he had scrubbed, at the life he had built from nothing. "I want to be here. I want to clean floors. I want to wake up each day knowing that I made something a little bit better instead of a little bit worse." Tori's eyes filled with tears. Happy tears. "That is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard." She hugged him, her small arms wrapped around his waist, her furry head pressed against his chest. Taiho stood still for a moment. Then, slowly, he put his arms around her. He could not remember the last time someone had hugged him. It felt warm. It felt right. Life on the station continued. The Drexar left the next morning, their black ship disappearing into the void. The aliens went back to their business, buying and selling and making deals. The corridors filled with noise and movement and life. Taiho cleaned, but now people talked to him. They said hello. They asked about his day. They treated him like a person instead of a ghost. The Vraxians left a week later. They did not say goodbye, but they never heard anyone on the station again. Turi brought Taiho warm drinks every day. Sometimes she sat with him during his breaks. They talked about small things, simple things, things that had nothing to do with war or death or the past. It was nice. One morning, a young alien approached Taiho as he was mopping the main corridor. It was a Corvan child, barely waist-high, with wide, curious eyes. "Are you the Shadow Walker?" The child asked. Taiho knelt down to be at eye level. "I was once. A long time ago. My father says you killed monsters. Your father is not entirely wrong, but now you clean floors?" Taiho smiled. It felt strange on his face. He had not smiled in a long time. "Now I clean floors. Why?" It was such a simple question, asked with such honest curiosity. Taiho thought about how to answer, how to explain years of pain and guilt and searching for meaning, how to describe the choice to put down weapons and pick up a mop. In the end, he said the simplest thing he could think of. Because some predators hide their teeth. Others simply choose not to show them. "I made my choice." The child nodded seriously, as if this made perfect sense. Then it ran off to find its father, leaving Taiho alone in the corridor. He stood up and went back to mopping. The floor was dirty. It needed to be cleaned. And Taiho was exactly where he wanted to be. Finally, after all these years, he was at peace. Not the empty peace of forgetting. Not the numb peace of pretending. Real peace. The kind that comes from accepting who you are and choosing who you want to become. He was a shadow walker who had chosen to walk in the light. And that made all the difference.